Hi, I'm Ryan. Today I wanted to finish sharing the rest of my infertility or IVF story or journey. This is part 2 of my story. If you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you check out the first video where I went through IVF the first time. I wanted to share my story and journey with fertility and IVF because I want to let others know who are going through this that they're definitely not alone. It's a really difficult, challenging road. Hopefully someone will get a benefit out of that, or if you're just here for a story, welcome. That's fine by me as well. To start off with, to recap part 1, my son, he is 8, Sully, we got him through IVF, and that was back in 2015. So when we went through IVF that time, we had 7 embryos that were frozen. We had used 2 for my son. So we got my son Sully, and then once we were finished in 2015, we had 5 embryos that were frozen and left over. I have PCOS. That's why we had to do IVF. I was not ovulating whatsoever. I always thought that I would have 2 children. I pictured us a family of 4. So and my husband, we did want another child, and I wanted them closer together. So when he was, I think 2 or 3, I wanted to go back for the frozen embryos. I believe I was ovulating at that time. I was actually, my body was, I felt like was working better after all of the IVF treatments. I was actually getting a regular period, but I did not want to try naturally at all because we had the 5 frozen embryos still. I think of those as Sully's brothers and sisters. I didn't want to create more babies. I really wanted to go back for those 5 that were frozen. We did meet with the same doctor that we had the first time, and he said, yeah, this sounds great. Let's get it set up. Let's do the trial embryo transfer. It was pretty easy last time. Let's do it again. Things never go as smoothly as we would hope. So I went and scheduled the trial embryo transfer, which went smoothly the first time. So I drove up there, I got into the clinic, and lo and behold, he could not get into my uterus. I hope this is not too much information, but that's what was wrong. This time, my cervix, for whatever reason, bent. I don't know, from the pregnancy, recovery, whatever, but it wasn't straight to do the trial embryo transfer or to do an embryo transfer. It wasn't straight to evaluate that or put embryos in. It like curves, it bent. The doctor could not get in to evaluate the uterus. Essentially would not be able to transfer embryos. That was really frustrating, really frustrating. So then his colleague, who's been doing this longer or had more experience, wanted to meet with me. He thought, yep, he can do it. He can get in, no problem. So I met with him. Lo and behold, he could not get in the uterus either. So then that physician said, well, let me do it under some anesthesia in the office. I went through with that procedure. He could not still get in the uterus. So we still could not transfer the embryos. So this doctor had said, okay, let's do it in the OR. Let's see if we can get into the uterus that way. And then he planned on a laparoscopic surgery to evaluate the uterus, ovaries. I was in PA school at the time, actually just finishing up PA school. I got a whole week off to recover from that surgery. And this doctor's clinic was, I think, 2 hours from our house. My husband and I got up at 3:30 in the morning, and we drove all the way to this clinic. Unfortunately, my husband's truck got damaged on the way. Something flew off a truck bed and tore up his front. And then we finally got into the hospital, checked into the surgical suite, paid our down payment, and then the nurse called me back, and I got up to come back, and she said, nope, come sit down. I need to talk to you. And I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. So she comes, talks to us, and she said that the surgeon actually is not coming in anymore today, that he was sick, and that my surgery would have to be scheduled. But no worries, because we'll get you back in a few weeks, and we can just delay the surgery. And I said, that's not possible. I'm in PA school. I can't do this any other time. Oh, I was so mad because we drove all that way, took the time off. My husband took off, the gas, the damage to my husband's truck. whatever. Since I work in the medical field, I ended up finding another gynecologist that I work with, and her surgery day was the next day. This was actually a Monday, so her surgery day is Tuesday. So I asked her, I was like, do you want a surgery? Here's what's going on. So she ended up doing it for us, and she was able to get into the uterus. So I recovered from that surgery. This was in January of 2019, and then I went back to the fertility specialist, told him what happened, everything, you know, that we could get into the uterus, and he tried. He was able to get in finally, but it took a really long time. So the fertility doctor said that we can try the transfer, that he was agreeable to transfer 2 embryos, but he did not give it really any success rate. If we were willing to do that and try, we could. He wasn't going to say no. So we did. We got the medications. We started the 2-month cycle. 2 months later, I went back in for that embryo transfer. Unfortunately, because the cervix was not as dilated anymore from the hysteroscopy, that it was really hard for him to get into the uterus. It took a long time. He really struggled. And when that happens, what happens is the uterus starts contracting and makes the success of your embryo transfer to go down. I could even feel my uterus cramping and stuff. So he was able to get the 2 embryos in, but I mean, I was happy that he got in. I actually cried because he finally got in. I was so happy to get the 2 embryos transferred because those are who I really wanted. I really wanted one of those 2 to work, or 2 of those 2 to work. I think the IVF cycle the second time went so much quicker. I feel like it was so much easier to do because I knew what we were doing, how the meds worked, how I would feel, and I was in PA school. So I was super busy between studies and tests and clinical rotations. So I took the transfer day off. I had clinicals the next day and the rest of the week. So it was super busy. I started testing, I think a few days afterwards, and they didn't take, so I was super devastated with that. So yeah, I think because of my PA school, I didn't grieve it at all. I just kept moving on. I don't think I have fully grieved that yet. It's just so hard to go through when you see what those embryos become, like my child, my 8-year-old. And just like what those embryos could have been or could be. We did not go back for any more. My husband and I decided at that point that we would have only our 1 child. And especially now, I'm nearly 40 and he's 8. I really wanted 2 kids close together in age so that way they could play and kind of grow up together. We decided that after that last transfer with the 2 additional embryos, that was gonna be it, and it didn't work. So we just have our 1 little guy. I'm super, super blessed to have him. He is amazing. We are so lucky to at least have 1 little guy in our lives. He's just so special to us because of that. We're so lucky to be able to have him at least through IVF and medicine. And then of course we have a puppy. So that's why I feel like I always have a dog, because then it's an extra something to take care of and keep me company. So that's my story with IVF, infertility, fertility struggles over the years. It's been a few years now, and I think that I have definitely adjusted and okay with not having 2 kids. Finally coming to the fact that like I don't want to be pregnant. Good for women who are 40 and pregnant, and good for them and happy for them, but I don't want to be 40 and pregnant. So yeah, we're done. We're happy with our 1 little Sully. That's going to be all for this video. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
I know that